What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to show you guys how to remove the exhaust manifold on a R56 Mini Cooper. Mine's a 2009. This should work on anything that has an N14 in it. So if you like these videos, don't forget to subscribe. Like this video if you like it. Just thumbs down if you don't like it. And if you have any questions about the video when you're done watching it, put a comment down below and I'll answer every single one of them. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to spray some sort of penetrating oil or lubricant on every one of these studs. There's 10 of them. There's 4 of them on the top that you can just look in and see, and there's 6 on the bottom. So if you just put your hand underneath it, you can just feel where they are and then spray some sort of penetrating lube on them and let that sit for a few hours or overnight. Okay, now if you haven't already, I already have my downpipe and everything off, so obviously you need to have that off. But if you haven't done it already, you need to take off your intake hose and your boost hose. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off right now. I'm going to try to get away with just taking these 2 clamps off and leaving everything else attached. We'll see if that works. I've never tried it that way, but if not, I'll take it off the rest of the way. It's not a big deal. Let me get that a little bit looser and I'll pull that off. You might need to remove your coolant tank. There's normally a bolt right here. Mine doesn't have it. Mine just pops up. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull that out of the way a little bit so I can get some room. And then pull this back. Alright, and that's off, and that's off. Okay, now with the drain pan underneath your motor, you're going to want to pull your oil feed line and your 2 coolant hoses. Don't forget that after you pull your coolant, you're going to have to bleed your coolant system. I have a video on that. I'll link it in the description. And make sure you check your oil after you pull this. I don't know how much oil is going to come out, but make sure you check yours. Okay, this oil feed line right here is a 17 millimeter. So I'm going to put a 17 millimeter ratchet on there and break it loose. Yours might not be steel braided, but this is the OEM bolt. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this off by hand. I don't have any spare of these copper washers, so I'm going to make sure not to drop them. But if you're doing this, you might want to replace them. I'm just going to keep them on the bolt so I don't lose it. I'm going to set this on my cowl. Alright, these 2 coolant lines are going to be 19 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and break those loose. Just going to go ahead and pull it out most of the way with the ratchet. Again, make sure you have something underneath it to catch the coolant, because there is coolant coming out right now. Not a lot, but it's coming out. And again, I don't have any spare copper washers for this, so I'm going to make sure not to lose these. If I drop this one, it's just going to land on my pan, so it's not that big of a deal. didn't drop it. Set that up on my cowl. Same with the top. Alright, set that on my cowl. Move on to the next step. Okay, from under the car, I don't know if you can see, those are all of my extensions pretty much, but they go all the way up underneath the turbo to the oil return line. There's an 8mm bolt, bolt, and I have the end of the socket is actually on the 8mm bolt. So I'm just gonna break that loose if I can do it with one hand. I don't know if I can. Alright, I'm gonna have to use two hands, but I'm gonna break that loose and take it out. Once you get it broke loose, it turns it pretty easily, so I'm just turning it by hand now. I don't even have the ratchet attached to all my extensions. I'm just gonna loosen this bolt until I feel like it's all the way out, and it's probably gonna drop. Out. Yep, it just dropped and it landed right by me, so it's no big deal. This is the bolt you're trying to take out. It's just a little tiny 8mm. Again, underneath the turbo, you can see this bar right here. That's their turbo brace. I don't know the exact word for it, but up where I have this 10mm ratchet, there's a little bolt that you got to take out, but it's definitely going to take. Let me see what I do with one hand. Yeah, it's definitely going to take two hands to break that loose, but I got to take that out. And I'm going to try to not take this one out, but I might just loosen that bolt right there. It's a 13mm if I do. The bolt broke loose. You can go ahead and take the wrench off, and you could probably get it by hand from that point. Let's hope so. Alright, I'm going to try to get it from the top by hand. Alright, from here I'm just going to reach underneath the turbo, see if I can loosen it. It's pretty awkward, but I can get it. I'm not going to make you watch me take this whole bolt out. Okay, so if you put your thumb over top of your wastegate actuator and your rest of your fingers underneath it and grab onto that bolt, you can loosen it really easy. It's not awkward at all. And that's the bolt. Okay, so now you're going to want to pull your oil return line out of the way. Just pull it down. Mine's already popped off. Grabbed onto the wrong hose here. You just want to get it out of the way so that you can get to this bottom bolt down here, or bottom nut that's on the exhaust manifold stud. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the hardest one first. See if you can see it. Try to get a light on it. That bolt right there that the light is on, that I mean, the bottom one, not the top one, is the one I'm going to take off first. Alright, so you're going to need an extension on your ratchet that fits to where the bolt is, all the way to where it's just barely not hitting your radiator fan, so that you have enough room. You go underneath your wastegate actuator and next to that oil return line that you just moved out of the way. and you just work it in there until you can get it over top of the stud, and it goes right on the bolt like that, and then you break it loose. Hopefully I'm on loose. And yeah. It's kind of an awkward position to loosen it, but there we go. Since I'm already here, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it most of the way off. Maybe all the way off. I'm not going to make you watch the whole loosening though. While you're loosening, you don't want to lose these bolts, so I take a pin magnet and I'm going to stick it straight down on top of the bolt, and then just go ahead and loosen. That way, if I drop it, it's attached to that pin magnet. Okay, so I'm pretty close, I think, to taking it off, so I'm going to go ahead and take the socket off of the bolt, but off of the nut, but I'm going to hold the magnet on the nut so I don't lose it. Let's see if I can. Hold on a second here. My socket's popped out of my extension, so I got to figure out how I'm gonna get more room real quick. All right, I got my socket back into the extension, so I should be able to pull it out now. Not quite all the way loose, but if you reach underneath your turbo, you can actually loosen it with your bare hand. But keep the pin magnet close. And then pull it out like that. That's the bolt, or the nut. Okay. Now for the nut right above it, you're going to do the same thing, only you're going to come above the actuator arm and use the same extension to reach it. I don't know if I mentioned, but these are 11 millimeter nuts. Alright, and that came real loose real fast, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. It's hard to get it past this radiator. Accidentally stepped on my camera mount. I'm just going to pull that out. Alright. Now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get my hands on this. Alright, so it turns out the nut is not quite loose enough to loosen by hand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back on. If I can remember how I got it on. Okay, I found the easiest way to get this socket onto this bolt with the ratchet. I had unattached the ratchet from the extension, and then I put it on there, and then I attached the extension. Otherwise, it's just just barely not enough room. I mean, it'll work. I've gotten it a few times, but it's just a lot faster to do it the other way. Alright, now it's starting to turn both ways no matter what I do, so I think it's pretty loose. Since I can't really get my hand in there, but it is loose enough that I can turn it by hand, I'm just going to use this magnet to actually loosen it until it comes off. Can't be very many more threads. It looks like it's all the way off. There it goes. And there you have it. Alright, now I'm going to take, these are probably the two easiest ones off. Just use a smaller extension like this. You probably don't even need the extension. If you haven't done it already, make sure you've disconnected your negative battery cable, because the alternator is right here and it will spark if you touch this metal down here, which I've done before, removing my downpipe. So mine's already disconnected. If you have an electric ratchet, you could probably use it on this spot, but I normally don't. I just use the regular ratchet for taking off this for some reason. But this is probably my third or fourth time taking this off. That's why I didn't really show you guys how to do the heat shields, is because I don't have all the bolts in mine, because I've taken it off so many times that it wouldn't be exactly like yours. So it wouldn't have been that beneficial. I think this one's loose. All right, I'm not going to make you watch me take out one of the easiest bolts. You guys could probably get that. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but the reason I started on this side is obviously those are the hardest ones. Get the hardest ones out first. And then the reason I went all the way to the other side is because I want to take them out from the outside and work my way in. And then when I put it back on, I'm going to tighten it from the inside and work my way out. Okay, so the next two that I'm going to take out are going to be these two bottom ones. You could reach down and feel them. They're right underneath the hot side of the turbo. And I can't get it on camera, me taking them out, because they're underneath the turbo. So if I have any tricks to show you guys, I'll show you how to do it. If it's just basic, straightforward, taking it out with this, then I'll tell you that too. Okay, so I switched to a regular this size extension. I'm not sure the exact length of it, but that seemed to work. And all I did was put it on, loosen it from underneath the hot side of the turbo. There's no trick to it. You just put it on the bolt. Again, you want to make sure you don't drop these unless you have some spares, which I don't. So I'm going to pull that out. And then I believe I have the bracket. That's everything that holds this bracket. I'm not 100% sure. There might be 4 holding it. Okay, there's one more bolt that holds the bracket, and I'll show you what the bracket looks like. Okay, that was the first stud underneath the hot side of the turbo. And now I'm gonna take out the next one this way. I'm just gonna put the ratchet on there. Just reaching in and feeling where it is with my hand and putting the ratchet on there and then breaking it loose. Comes out as simple as that. That's about the same as how the other bolt came out too. Other nut. I'm gonna take it out the rest of the way by hand. Alright, there's that one. Now this bracket should be loose. These are just brackets. They go over top of the studs. They just set on. Let's see if I got that in the camera. They just set on top of the studs. So that's where the 3 studs were on the bottom, and then I took this one out on the top. Okay, so now with the same setup, I'm going to take out the bolt. That's the nut. I mean, that's right underneath the exhaust manifold. So the second one over. It's literally right above the alternator. First couple times actually that I took my exhaust manifold off, I skipped that bolt. So try not to do that because obviously it won't come off. Actually, I gotta use a different setup. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna try that. There we go. All right, I'm gonna take it off the rest of the way by hand. It wasn't quite as loose as I thought, so I had to hit it with the ratchet again, but now I'm gonna take it off by hand. It's 7, so we got 3 more. Go ahead and put this extension back on so that I can reach underneath the manifold all the way. And the next bolt, you can actually see it. There's a hole right here in your manifold. Not really a hole, but a seat where you can see through. You can actually see where the nut is. So you just slide the socket on, take it off, take the nut off. All right, I'll go ahead and pull that the rest of the way off. Get this out with my hand here. There's that one. This bottom bracket should be loose. It's kind of awkward to take off. There you go. That's the bottom one. Take a note when you take them off, which way you took them, where they came from. But I mean, or just refer to this video. But they have these bends in them. Those face out. Obviously, because if you had it the other way, you wouldn't be able to tighten it. Okay, for this one that's right here next to the hot side of the turbo, this stud is kind of in the way. Usually that stud, sometimes anyway, the stud comes out, but it didn't this time. So I went back to this shorter extension that's wobbly. I'm going to use that so that I can take this nut off. if I can get it on there. Alright, on this one, since my little setup doesn't working very good, I actually got an 11mm box end wrench and was able to stick it on there like that and break it loose. Of course, now it doesn't want to move, but I should be able to take it off the rest of the way now. It was going to strip if I kept using this, so now I can put this on there, take it off the rest of the way. Definitely don't want to strip that in that spot because that'd be impossible to get off. Alright, I'm going to try to get it off the rest of the way with the wrench. Should be able to get the rest of the way by hand now. You can see those witness marks. When you saw that ratchet pop off, that's what happened. That's why I stopped using the ratchet immediately, because I didn't want to lose this. All right, back to the ratchet with just one extension. This one just fits right on, it's straightforward. It's not on at a weird angle like the other one was, and I should just be able to loosen it. This is the last one holding the exhaust manifold, I believe. I might have miscounted. Nope, it's the last one. I can see the manifold moving. There's that. Go ahead and pull this out. That's the bracket that goes on the top. Alright, at this point, you could probably just pull this off, but it just doesn't feel like the intake hose is out of the way enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and loosen this hose clamp. Just so that I can get a little bit of room. I don't need to take it all the way off. Alright. Alright, before I try to pull this out, I'm going to take the vacuum hose off of the wastegate. See if I can see this. I'm using this little pick tool. If you have one that's just, 90 degrees, it's probably equally as good. But this is what I'm going to use. It's one I could find. And if you don't have one, you could probably just pull it off with your hand. But I'm going to do it this way. That's the vacuum line that's connected to your wastegate on your turbo. Alright, before I forget, on the diverter valve, there's also a connector. So I'm just going to take a screwdriver and there's a little, let me see if I can get a better view of it for you. Okay, there's a little tab right there where I'm putting the screwdriver. Pop that out and then push down and the connector comes out. If I can do it with one hand holding the phone, you can definitely do it. Okay, I think that is everything holding the exhaust manifold. I'm not 100%. Like I said, I'm going by memory. I'm not going by any book right now. So I'm going to try to pull it out. First, you got to take this top coolant out of the way. And you just got to figure out a way to wiggle it out. And there it is. All right, the reason I'm pulling my exhaust manifold off is because, as you can see right here, no gasket. And I ordered one a long time ago. It came from China. It wasn't, obviously, I didn't see it was from China when I ordered it, and it was right before the coronavirus hit. So I'm guessing I have a pretty good leak. I can smell exhaust sometimes. So I'm just going to replace this one and the one on my downpipe. That's not the point of this video, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'll tell you guys how to do it. 4 bolts. Bam, bam. Bam, bam. Take those off way easier with the manifold off. That's the gasket. It's just a metal gasket, so I don't really care that it's from China. It'll work. It'll definitely work better than no gasket. Okay, now once you've already done whatever it is that you were doing to the reason you took your manifold off, now I'm going to show you how to put it back on. First, we're just going to slide this manifold back in, right where we got it, obviously. To kind of get underneath, without dropping it, underneath this coolant line. So close. And just line it up with the studs. Slide it on like that. Go ahead and put that coolant line where it goes, just so, the oil feed line. There it goes first. All right. Okay, now that I have that on, I'm going to put the hardest bracket to put on first. It's going to be the first one I took off. It's going to go on this way, like that. All right, I'm just going to reach underneath the turbo. If I can get around everything here. I use a top hand. I get the one on the top nut first, and then line up the nut underneath it, then it just slides on the rest of the way. It actually goes on pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the nut on the far bottom. I'm not going to tighten it because, like I said, I'm going to tighten it from the inside out. But I'm just going to put this nut on there just to keep that bracket from falling off. If I can remember how I got my hand in there. There we go. Alright, that's just barely hand tightened. Okay, so after I put that on there, I realized I didn't actually put it on the far one out. I put it on the one right before it. So now I'm going to use this magnet with the bolt on it like this. I'm going to set it down in there because I can actually see the nut. I'm going to put it on like that. And then just reach under there with my hand so I can get it a little bit tight. And again, this is just so that bracket has nowhere to go. I'm not tightening this at all. Alright. Now, since this one is the hardest one to do, I'm going to go ahead and do that one right now. Same way. Put the nut on the pin magnet and just slide it on there. Let's see. So I can't get that to turn with my bare hands, so I'm gonna put a socket in there so I can turn it. Okay, so I have the nut on the magnet, like on the washer, but I have it so that I can still get the socket onto the nut. But I'm gonna put the socket down there. Let me get this hose out of the way first. Socket goes above the actuator. And again, I'm just going to get it hand tight. But I like to get the hardest ones started first, because once you get those, once you can figure out how to do those easily like I just did, this job is really easy. I didn't start this job until it was about 3:30, and I'm filming, so it's taken me way longer because I'm filming, but this job doesn't take long at all. Alright, so the next bracket I'm going to put on is the one that's on the bottom, on this side over here. It goes on, the writing is right here, and this little crease is right here, and these bumps face up. And that's it, and it'll just slide right on. I believe it'd only fit on one way, so you can't really put it on wrong. But that goes on easy. And I'm just going to hand tighten one of these. I'm going to put the bolt on there, the nut that I kind of stripped earlier, on a place where I can get to it real easy. So I don't have to worry about stripping it next time. I'll replace it later. Next time I have to take it off. Alright. The other two on. Now there's one right underneath where the hot side of the turbo ends, pretty much. Let me see if I can get my hand on it again. There we go. It's about right here. So I'm going to put this nut on there before I forget it. It's probably the easiest one on the underneath the turbo to get to. This one actually tightens down the first bracket that I put on. I just, when I was putting everything together, I missed it. Alright, last bracket is this one. It goes on like this. These round part face down this time. And it's got this little knob. It'll actually only fit on that one way, so it's pretty easy. You just set it in there and it'll slide right on, like that. And you can hand tighten the nut. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just tighten these down. I'm going to do it in 2 stages. I'm just going to kind of snug them up with this ratchet. Definitely going to make sure I don't strip this bolt that I kind of stripped on the way out. The Bentley manual says to torque these to 18.4 foot-pounds. I don't see it being humanly possible to get a torque wrench in and do this job, unless you wanted to be unless you wanted to take the front end of the car off or put it in service mode. But that seems like a lot of work that I just don't want to do. So I'm doing it this way. I'm gonna go ahead and, if you have a steel braided line and you're not really sure exactly where the line needs to go, I'm gonna go ahead and thread this on while everything's still loose, just so I can make sure that I'm putting everything in the right spot. Tighten this a little bit before I tighten it down, because this doesn't have a lot of room to slide. Make sure you don't cross thread any of these bolts when you're putting them in. To get that to go in, I actually loosened this bolt right here so it would slide in easier, but that'll work. Alright, so now go ahead and snug this up. Make sure you don't pinch this line. If you have the OEM one, it's going to be a little different. You're going to put it wherever the OEM one goes. Go ahead and snug up the one right next to it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and snug them all up. I'm not going to make you watch me. I'll show you where the hard ones are. Make sure when you're doing this, I started these 2 in the middle on the top. Now I'm going to do the ones on the bottom. Make sure you feel around and you find out where they all are. Remember, there's 6 on the bottom, 4 on the top. So count 1, 2, 3. Make sure that you're on the 4th and the 3rd and the 4th ones that are the ones you're going to tighten. So it's 1, 2, 3, and they're basically on either side of these 2 that I just tightened. First one I'm going to get on the bottom is going to be the one that's directly underneath the hot side. I'm just going to feel under there with my hand. Put the socket on there. I don't know if I put a long enough extension, but we'll see. At this point, I'd also remember, before you even get to this point, that there's that bar, that support bar that's underneath here. Mine is on the right side where it's supposed to be already. That just ended up being in the right spot. But before you start torquing these down, make sure you have that on the right side of the, where it bolts up, so that you don't have to take it apart. But mine is. But I'm gonna do that before or after I torque all these down. That'll be one of the next steps. All right, now the next one I'm going to do, it's basically straight down from this cylinder, or from this spark plug, a little bit over to this side of it, but straight down. You can actually, it's the one you can see through the hole. I'm just snugging it. I didn't get it tight because I'm gonna get them all snug, and then I'll go through and tighten them down. So now the next one I'm gonna do is gonna be on the bottom, the second to the last one that way. So I'm gonna try first. I'm gonna use this extension with the 11mm socket on it. I'm just gonna put the extension on there and try to tighten it by hand as much as I can before I put the actual ratchet on there, just so it's easier to get onto the nut. And that was easy. It went onto the nut real easy. I can't really get that many turns on it, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and put the ratchet while it's already on there. All right, in order to put this on, I needed a screwdriver, and I had to go grab one real quick. My ratchet has a little button on the back in order to get to slide into the extension, so I got to press that with the screwdriver because I can't get my finger in there. But yours is probably going to be different. All right, there we go. Again, I'm just going to snug this one. Alright, now I'm just going to move it over to the next one, see if I can just slide that one on. Let's get that out of the way. Oh no, I can't because the bar's in the way. Alright, so I gotta go through here. Okay, so that brace is in the way, so you can't just slide it over. So you gotta reset up for the other one on the bottom, which for some reason is the absolute hardest one on the bottom. Oops. Well, I dropped my ratchet, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this on there. Alright, there we go. Maybe not. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to get your oil return line as far that way as you can, and then make sure you get the turbo brace as far this way as you can without being on the wrong side, obviously. And you're going to put your extension between the two and line it up and put it on the bolt. That's where I'm at now. Once you figure that part out, it goes in pretty easily. Alright, and I'll go to the next one. Alright, the next one's gonna be this top one right here. So remember, above the actuator, and you just slide that in. And if you're lucky, it'll just go right in, otherwise you're gonna have to fight it, but we'll see. Sometimes I can get it on, and other times I gotta take the ratchet off of the extension. I don't know why it's different sometimes, but alright, I'm gonna take the ratchet off the extension. With the ratchet off the extension, it goes right on. Like that. Then I'm just going to tighten it as much as I can to give me some room. Alright. Now I'll go ahead and put this on. See, that's the button I got to press. Top one, as I'll do it with my bare hand. Now my ratchet doesn't want to work. Yes, my bolt isn't tight enough for my ratchet to work, so I gotta back it out, put it back on, tighten it. There it goes. That's snug. Oh, come on. Take my ratchet out, take my extension out, and I'll go to the next one. All right, the next three are just going to be these three right here. The last three on the end, so I'm going to get the one right here, not quite at the end, but right before it. A ratchet on there. You're going to want to use something like that. Same one you took it off with, obviously. Alright, that one's kind of snug, so I'm going to go ahead and go to this top one. It seems pretty loose. I'm going to tighten it by hand first. There we go. Still loose. It says in the Bentley manual, also besides the torque of 18.4 pounds, it says to replace these nuts every time, but I have not replaced them and I haven't had any issue. So that one's tight. I'm going to go to the bottom outside one. I think that BMW just likes you to buy stuff. Obviously, if they were torque to yield bolts, I'd replace them, but these are nuts, so different story. Weird. Got loose for some reason. Oh, there we go. Alright, now they're just kind of snug. Now I'm just going to go through the whole thing and just tighten them down. I'm not going to show that part though because it's the same exact thing. You're going to get into the spaces the same way I just showed you, but this time you're just going to tighten them down in the same exact order. I decided I'm not going to do it in 2 passes. I'm going to do it in 3 passes. So just because this first pass I'm going through it and they're not all really that evenly snugged, so I'm going to get them pretty even and then I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. So I was getting to this. Let me put this camera where I can kind of show you. I was doing the bottom bolt down there. I don't know if you can see it, but you know, the one on the very bottom. And I found out that with this little short ratchet, I can just stick the thing on there. I don't know why I was using the longer one in the first place. This fits perfectly, no problem, with no issue. I'll even show you. Put that on, just reach underneath. You can look right in there. You can see the bolt. Just put it on there. It goes right on. Yeah, I have no idea why I was using that other extension earlier. That worked great. It actually works for the bolt right above it too, so that makes it 100 times easier. I actually, let me take that back. I added this one little extension, so it's, what did I do with it? Instead of that, it's now that. But I can just slide that thing in there and put it right on the bolt now. As long as you're facing down, there you go. And I can just tighten it. It's already tight, but and it comes right out way easier. All right, once you get that all torqued up, go ahead and remember this bolt that you took out of your brace, the turbo brace, and by hand from the top, you can put that in, hopefully. And once you get it started, if you have your thumb above the actuator arm, the wastegate actuator arm, and your other fingers underneath it, it's super easy to thread. There we go. It's a 10 millimeter. Make sure it's going the right way. You could do this from the bottom of the car or the top, probably. I'm gonna do it from the top because I'm already here. I've actually done this with the downpipe on before. This is just a lot easier with it off. Like, a lot easier. Alright. Okay, even though I didn't loosen or take it off or anything, I'm gonna go ahead and snug up the bolt that's on the bottom of the turbo brace. It's a 13 millimeter, I believe. I'm gonna just get this ratchet on there and tighten it up real quick. Yes, it is a 13 millimeter. Oh, mine is loose. All right, now from underneath the car, I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I'm going to put the turbo oil return line on, and then put this in. Actually, from the top of the car, before I get under the car, I'm going to go ahead and put it so it's pretty close to where it goes, since I can reach it easily from right here. Let's see if I can feel where it goes. Alright, so oddly enough, I was able to, I actually laid down underneath the car to see where it went. And with the flashlight, I shined the flashlight up there and I was able to slide it right in. I'm going to hand thread this before I get under the car. Hopefully. If I could find where the hole goes. Oh, it's right there. All right, I'm gonna do that from the bottom. There's just it's too awkward to do it from the top. All right, so what I'm gonna attempt to do, I don't know if you can see it, it's where I'm shining that light. See the top right there on the, I'll be able to point to it with my hand. Right here, that's the oil return line. I'm going to try to put that bolt on the end of, inside of a socket with a long extension, and I'm going to just stick it up there and put it in the hole. Guide the thing up there, but once you get it in there, you can just tighten it by hand like this, and then tighten it down with the ratchet. Let me get a ratchet on there. Once you get a ratchet on there, just get it tight. Not sure the torque spec on here, but I'm not using a torque wrench anyway. I'm just gonna get it tight. There we go. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and put these coolant lines on. Do the bottom one first. I'm reusing these copper washers. You should replace them. In fact, I think eventually I will replace mine. I'm just going to hand tighten it, and I'm going to put the other one in. Always hand tighten everything as much as you can, so you know if you're cross threading it, because you're not going to be able to hand cross thread something, or at least you'll feel it if it's trying to. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and tighten those up. Our oil feed line is a 17. Actually, let me find out what the torque spec is on that for you guys real quick. Alright, so this one is 22 foot-pounds. I'm just going to tighten it. And then the two banjo bolts are 25.8 foot-pounds. Alright, well they're all banjo bolts, but the two coolant line banjo bolts are 25.8 pounds. But again, I'm just going to tighten them. If you don't own a Bentley manual, I would definitely recommend buying one. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's a good book to have. I actually use it every single time I work on my car. Just for torque specs usually, because I normally don't follow the procedure because I usually try to find an easier way to do it. Alright, I'm just going to get those tightened down. I don't think you need to watch me, and then we'll finish up. Alright, so now I'm going to find my vacuum line for my wastegate. Actually, no. I'm going to go ahead and put the diverter valve sensor, whatever it is, in first. Because I can't really see where it goes. Hold on, I gotta get the camera out of my way so I can look in there real quick. No, I just need to use my other hand so I can get it in there. That slides right in. And then I'm gonna grab my vacuum line, put that on the wastegate. Make sure you slide it on all the way to where the 90 degrees is. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put this boost hose on. Just gonna slide it on. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it. Make sure that's all the way on. I'm only gonna tighten it with a screwdriver for now, but before you go driving anywhere, in fact I'll do it on the video, tighten it with a wrench, because if you're running any amount of boost, you will get a boost leak tightening it with a screwdriver. At least I do, but I'm a stage 3 boosting. It's set at 21.3 pounds, but I've actually gotten 22.5 is the highest amount of boost I've gotten. 22.5 psi. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the intake on. it on all the way. This one you can just tighten with a screwdriver because you don't boost through this. It's not a boost tube. Let's gotta loosen it a little bit. Get the right spot. There we go. Won't make you watch me tighten that all the way. You get the point. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the one that's right here. It's hiding behind this hose. Didn't realize I loosened it that much. You don't want to tighten it too tight because you don't want to break your mass airflow sensor. I'm going to put my coolant where it goes. Now remember, if you have a bolt that goes right there, you tighten that down right now. I don't have it. Like I was saying, tighten this with the wrench. I have this ratchet. It's a little small one, so I can't get it real tight. But it's a 7mm. You just put it on there and just get it a little bit tighter. And if you get a boost leak, come back and tighten it some more. But you don't want to break this. I don't know how strong that is. All right, so that's how you replace your intake manifold. Take it off, put it back on. It's pretty simple. You don't have to remove the front of the car. I think it would just take way longer if you did. If you, like I said earlier, if you like this video, subscribe, thumbs up if you like the video too, thumbs down if you don't. Definitely leave comments if you have any questions, like how to remove heat shields and stuff like that. I can help you out. In fact, one of these is what you need. With one of these, you can take the bottom heat shield off in a matter of minutes, because this just reaches up there and gets it. And I wouldn't get the fuel. The fuel's a little bit bigger. This is the M12 version of the wrench. It just fits right up there, and without that, I think it would take a lot longer. In fact, the first time I took the heat shield off, I used ratchets, and it took me a couple hours. With that, the second time I took the heat shield off, it was maybe 30 minutes at the most, maybe 45. I don't think it was that long though to get both heat shields off, which is, you know, I had the downpipe off in that amount of time with both heat shields, and that's way faster. So I'll catch you in the next video. So I'll see you around. Don't forget to bleed your coolant system once you're done with that job, because you'll have air in it.